Yo, what's up guys? Real quickly, I just want to make a video talking about all of the changes that happened with Necromancer. A lot of people are freaking out saying, oh my god, Bone Spear is completely nerfed, I can't play it anymore, it's completely dead. Real quickly, I want to just briefly go over all of the changes that actually happened and then give you my opinion in terms of how strong it is. I think Bone Spear's changes, or rather lack thereof, really perfectly encapsulate the balancing changes that we got because it really didn't get nerfed that hard. It did get nerfed hard, and I'll talk about that, but it still is by far the highest damaging spec in the game. I'm still able to kill Lilith in literally the same exact amount of time. It's still extremely easy for me. When it comes to Nightmare Dungeons, you are a bit more nerfed, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but quickly, let's just go over the nerfs, and then I'll show you guys a Lilith kill before, and then what a Lilith kill looks like now, and while also just giving you guys some of my opinions. Real quickly, one of my opinions regarding this is that Bone Spear is still a little bit too strong. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, but I think it's really boring when one build is just too strong and when one build just does infinitely more damage than everything else. Shred got its like billion damage thing nerfed. Rogue got its poison pool thing fixed. So really the only thing that's going to do unbelievable amounts of boss damage anymore is going to be Bone Spear Necro, and it's only going to get better with the Malignant Heart and stuff. People are going to disagree with me because, you know, even me personally, selfishly, I really like when the build does a lot of damage because it's a lot of fun doing a lot of damage, right? But it's not really fun when there's just one build that does it. There's a lot of other good builds that Necro has, but nothing even comes close to the sheer power that Bone Spear has. Bone Spear survivability is going to be significantly reduced as a result of the changes that happen just overall. So Bone Spear is going to be a bit harder to play, but every build is going to be harder to play because of the survivability stuff. And when you have a build that just has less survivability, one of the easier ways to fix that is just doing infinite amounts of damage, which Bone Spear can still do. You still do ungodly amounts of damage. So real quickly, let's go over the nerfs. The first nerf is Grasping Veins. By the way, the text is like massive on stuff now. I don't know if we're all like 80 years old and we need new glasses or something. Let me know how you guys feel about it. But the text is huge, dude. Look at the nightmare sigils, man. Dead man's dread. It's massive. Okay. Anyways, the crit damage on Grasping Veins got reduced from 90% top end to 60%. So a 30% effective damage nerf if you're doing, you know, only crits. That's pretty hard. I mean, 30% nerf is pretty significant. But when you have a build doing, you know, quadruple the damage of every other build, 30% really in the grand scheme of things isn't that huge, and you still get the massive 30% crit chance. So putting this on the amulet is still the play. Another nerf that they actually didn't mention for some reason, and also my ring went from like a perfect 18 roll to a not perfect roll anymore, which is really cool, but the maximum essence got nerfed. So we went from a maximum essence top end on rings to from 18 to 14. And for the helmet, it went from 27 to just 20. So that does nerf our damage a pretty significant amount because we scale our damage a lot with Ossified Essence, and this, you know, does not have a cap on it. And also we get a lot of crit chance via Serration. Another nerf that we got is Avulsion. I don't remember, I think it was 36% or 35% or something. We lost like a couple percentages of damage there. Not a big deal, but, you know, it is something. One of the main nerfs is Splintering. Splintering got nerfed in two different ways. So previously, if you had this on a two-hander, it would go up to 225% bone shard damage. I think on the gloves it was just 90% or something like that. Maybe 100%. It scales up weird. It's not like a linear scaling when you put on a two-hander. It's not exactly a 100% bonus. Whatever. Basically, the amount of damage of the shards went from 225 down to 135 top end if you were to put this on a two-hander. So effectively, the bone shards are going to do close to about half as much damage. But the main thing that is actually relevant for Nightmare Dungeons is that we're just playing the game in general, is that this was actually bugged. A lot of people didn't believe me that this was bugged, but I told you guys, I told you so. Sorry. Basically, it would make Bone Spear's initial hit instantly apply vulnerable, which is not what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to make the subsequent hits past the first guy, like the piercing effect, or the shards themselves apply vulnerable. Basically, this would just allow you to instantly take advantage of vulnerable application, and you were able to play with Paranormal Bone Spear. Now, if you want to apply vulnerable instantly, which is just way better for the build, you need to play with Supernatural. If you're fighting Lilith or you're fighting bosses, Paranormal is fine because the shards will just make the boss vulnerable instantly anyway, and you want the additional shards. Basically, what this boils down to is when you're doing Nightmare Dungeons, you are missing 5% crit chance, and you are missing 2 additional bone shards. Admittedly, this is a pretty significant nerf, especially for Nightmare Dungeons. Having all those extra shards just helps you clear faster, you do a whole bunch of extra damage, but an easy way to remedy this is you just don't really rely on the shards as much, you just rely on the initial hit, which still does ungodly amounts of damage. You still do so much damage. You're scaling like, 400% crit damage still. You still have a good amount of vulnerable damage. Or sorry, like 600% crit damage. You still have all of the crit damage multipliers, like on your amulets in the Book of the Dead. You have all of this stuff. You still do crazy damage, and just put Ossified in your two-hander, get 40% extra crit damage there. You did lose a lot, but you did not lose that much to where the build isn't playable anymore. Real quickly, I'll show you guys a Lilith kill. So this is what the Lilith kill looked like previously. I'll show you guys the damage phases, and I'll show you what it looks like right now. So she pops down, and we're able to just absolutely blast her, do infinite amounts of damage, and just skip the phase. And then also you can do the exact same thing in phase 2, which we can actually still do, which is a very hard damage check, but we can still do it even after all these nerfs. So this is why I don't really think people are entirely justified in saying that Bone Spear Necro is completely gutted. You're not going to be hitting for 16, 20 million damage anymore, but you're still going to be hitting for easily up to like 10 million damage. You did get nerfed pretty hard, but it's not that bad. Here's the Lilith kill that I literally just got. I only did it one time. I logged on just to see if you could still do it. As you can see, this is like the current values. Also, like our vulnerable damage, our crit damage, like that got nerfed pretty significantly, but that is something that got nerfed for everybody. It's not just a Bone Spear Necro thing. But if we can still kill Lilith this quickly, I would still argue that the build is really, really strong. I'm sorry. I still think it's extremely strong. I'm happy that it didn't get, completely gutted, and I'm happy that it's still playable and then still really strong, but I still think it's a bit too strong because there's nothing else that it even comes close. So this is the first time that I did it. I logged on just to see if I could do it, and I still killed her perfectly fine. First try. Yeah, I mean, the damage is definitely less. I'm not going to lie. I definitely feel like I do less damage because I do. There's, a good amount of nerfs overall. If I had to guess right now, I'd say overall, our damage is probably reduced by about 40%, maybe 45%. I don't really know all the math on everything. That is just my guess. But as you can see, even with that nerf, we can still phase her perfectly fine. It's much tighter, and I'm not going to say you're going to do it every single time, but if I was able to do it first try without really trying anything, without changing anything about the build, I think that just shows that it's still really, really strong. There's no reason to cry about, Necro not being good. It's still by far and away the highest damaging spec in the game, and I'll show you guys some Nightmare Dungeon gameplay as well. So real quick, I'll just show you guys me phasing her in P2 just as easily as I did before. This build is like somewhat subject to RNG. Sometimes you phase her very, very easily, sometimes not as much, but if I can still do this much amount of damage with a 40% nerf, what does that mean about before it got nerfed, So it's still very, very easy to do Lilith, and that's after all of the changes. So now I'm just going to show you guys a Nightmare Dungeon. We actually have the new ones, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to do Dead Man's Dredge, which is one of my favorite dungeons. Unfortunately, it's Lightning Storm, but I'll just show you guys a little bit of gameplay and just show you that it's really strong still. Typically, I change my build a bit, but I'm not really going to change anything. Maybe my survivability will be like kind of cursed. I'll go back to my like other pants or boots that I like, the movement speed ones, and I'll put on my damage reduction chest. God, they nerfed the damage reduction so bad, just so I'm not getting like completely one-shotted. But I just want to show some gameplay just to show you guys it's perfectly fine. I haven't even played in a Nightmare Dungeon yet, or I did for like a second to test the Bone Spear thing. Not having 5 shards is not going to be as much fun. We're not going to like insta-kill bosses anymore in here, but I mean, it'll take 2 Bone Spears instead of 1 Bone Spear to kill stuff. Is that really a big deal to kill bosses? I mean, normal packs of mobs we still should one-shot. Also, how do you guys feel about the new loading screen? I don't really think I'm a big fan of it. I do have Lightning Storm, which is like super annoying. And keep in mind, survivability on Necro is pretty rough. I'm not going to lie to you guys about that, but as you can see, I mean, boom, still hitting for 3 million damage, a Bone Spear. If we don't crit, it's pretty bad. But, you Corpse Central and, 5 million, like, it's still really, really good. Man, I don't want to waste my Blood Mist. Lightning Storm is really just not fun on Necro. I'm not going to get too much gameplay. I'll probably just edit a little bit of this, but I just want to show you guys. Oh, this guy's a damage reduction aura. We'll just suck them all up, and boom, we're able to still just, one-shot everything. So yeah, pretty much the same thing. If you were playing like a little bit more, if you spec'd a little bit more into some damage and stuff, you could still more consistently one-shot. The damage is definitely worse, but I think, it's perfectly fine. Like, going from just one-shotting stuff to every once in a while, maybe you'll have to throw a second Bone Spear. It's really not that big of a deal. Obviously, my build is quite min-maxed, and this is only like a tier 61. If you go into a tier 70 or something, you're not going to be owning as hard. Here, I don't even want to kill all these guys. Not going to be owning as hard as it used to be, but I think it's like perfectly fine. You still feel extremely powerful with a very well set up build, and there's more ways that you can get damage. One of those ways is by getting 15% damage, or sorry, 12% with amplified damage. And usually I do use a curse, so that would actually help quite a significant amount, and it's something that I'm not using right now because I'm just too lazy to swap my skill tree because I keep my character set up for Lilith most of the time. But I mean, yeah, do I really need to say anything? You still do a bunch of damage. I don't know of any other class that can just walk around. God, dude, not the lightning storm. I'm being repetitive now. I don't know any other class that can walk around and do this amount of damage. If you don't crit on the elites, you just don't do any damage. That's kind of just how the build works. But yeah, I mean, your clear speed is slower, but you're still really, 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 really good compared to a lot of the other classes in the game. I don't really have too much else to say. I just want to show a bit of gameplay, give you guys my opinion. The thing is, though, it's going to be way stronger when we have like the Malignant Hearts when the season comes out. So that 8 million is probably going to be a lot higher than it is, like that 8 million hit. But yeah. Pretty easy. A little scary for your boy. I don't really want to do the rest of this dungeon. The free the prisoner stuff is annoying, and I want to go make some other videos. But hopefully, you learned something from the video, or you found it entertaining, or I don't know, whatever, something. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Necro, I think, is still in a very, very, very healthy spot, at least this build, and I don't think there's anything really to worry about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.